This little device, which is about as big as your hand if you were to stretch it out, earns about $8 a day, which is an extra $250 a month or $3,000 a year passive income. All you do is plug Ethernet and power into it with these PCIe power connections that are attached to the power supply that come with this device when you buy it. It has two fans on the front that blow air through the internal hash boards. These hash boards are basically a bunch of little computer chips that do one specific thing. That makes them an application-specific integrated circuit chip, or an ASIC chip, which means this is an ASIC miner. And if you don't want to do an Ethernet setup, these models also include a Wi-Fi adapter, which is that little antenna piece. But you still need to plug in Ethernet to get it online the first time and set up the Wi-Fi functionality. These devices, or this little mini ASIC miner, barely makes any noise. And it doesn't produce all that much heat since it only consumes 600 watts. This is the first of this type of little mini miner that we have seen have 3 PCIe power connections instead of normally 1 or 2. So depending on your electricity rate, this will probably cost less than $2 a day to run, or at least it does for me at a 10 cent per kilowatt hour cost. Today, we're going to be reviewing the Goldshell KA Box Pro that mines the K heavy hash mining algorithm, which is basically better known as Kaspa, the third most profitable cryptocurrency to mine in the world and a top 50 crypto. Is it worth it? How's it doing? What makes this the pro version, comparing it to its predecessor, and what does the future look like for not only this little mini miner that is easy to deploy in your house, but also just the future of the coin that it mines, because their fates are absolutely intertwined. Yo, I'm Vosk. You're on the VoskCoin YouTube channel, and just hear me out, super quick aside. Have you heard of handpan music? Okay, because I hadn't. This is very cool. It sounds like a lot of the music in video games that I enjoy. The vibe is especially in line with things like pixel art, modern pixel art games and things like that. But anyway, all I know is I'm like, maybe my instrument is a handpan, but then I look them up and they're pretty expensive. So I'm trying to find someone local to give it a spin before I drop the investment on one of those things. So let's look at the Goldshell KA Box Pro. I've had this for a couple of days now. We can see my 24-hour mining performance is at 1.6 terahash a second. This device is supposed to hash at 1.6 terahash a second while consuming 600 watts of electricity. So that's good. With that performance, it has earned about 49 Kaspa coins. And I'll cut in a screenshot when I get another day of mining profitability data to just have a bit more data. But I just got this in and I'm trying to turn this video around really quickly because I got mine personally from ASIC Marketplace. We've got the best coupon code in the game with them, which I'll put in the video description below. If you use our link, nothing to do with our code, you have to use our link if you want to support the channel when you buy one of these. But with the code, it's not really priced much differently than if you were to just go and buy it directly from Goldshell. ASIC Marketplace also includes a power supply, which Goldshell does not always include a power supply. And to my understanding, this specific listing they have up now does not include a power supply. So with the code and a PSU, you actually come out ahead in my opinion. But as always, I want to show you the manufacturer route to buy things as well as a reseller, because in this era of mining, normally the resellers actually come out as better deals. So I mean, this is suited to be one of the best at-home mining rigs right now. Speaking of mining, have you heard about emcd.io? They made today's video possible. They have a mining pool in conjunction with many other things, like teaming up with Venus and offering firmware for Bitcoin miners and Litecoin miners. They've built their own wallet, as well as launched a peer-to-peer buying and selling platform for cryptocurrencies. And to bring it back to their multi-coin mining pool, they allow you to mine many different cryptocurrencies, including Kaspa. Use our code to get a discount on your mining fees with our link out in the video description below. Kaspa has gone up significantly in the last week, which is making a big difference in that bottom line of mining profitability. I mean, it's up a cool 36%. That's a $1 billion market cap increase, right? Kaspa is commanding a market cap of $4.5 billion. That's a lot. That's more than Ethereum Classic. That's almost as much as Litecoin. It's doing $1.8 million in daily emissions right now. That's the amount of coins going out to miners every day. If we compare this to the previous KA Box model, it is mining 0.4 terahash faster and it consumes 50% more electricity. But here's the kicker. My KA Box never performed like it was supposed to. They advertised 1.18. Mine's really never done better than 1.1 on average. So it's really a 0.5 terahash a second increase in my opinion. It's reportedly a little bit louder, but nothing that I really noticed in my testing. I also run a box fan on it for supplemental cooling because these miners have been running very hot. Goldshell is pushing these to the absolute limit. So this is what the daily mining profitability looks like from a calculated point of view. And if we go over to CoinGecko, we punch in Kaspa, we'll see it's the 29th biggest cryptocurrency right now, and mining about 49 coins. We are beating mining profitability projections pretty substantially, I may add, because we're projected, and that's why calculators get you in the ballpark, but they're never totally accurate, which is why I always bring you my real world mining profitability here on these videos, so you have better data to make whatever decision you want to do, whether you want to get it or you don't. So $8.3, $8.30. I've mined $9.30. Sure, it's only $1, but that's a substantial increase percentage wise. And when you really break that out, right, 9.3 times 30 is 280 as opposed to 250. We break that over 12 months, it's an extra $350. That alone will account for your electricity bill, right? At least for me. I'm paying $2 a day times 365. Okay, I did the math wrong, but it'll help offset the associated electricity bill there. So let's log into the miner. The setup, obviously, stupid easy. You plug it in and then you copy and paste your mining pool information. So I log into my router, I grab the IP address, and then I punch it into my browser. You can do this on your phone, you can do this on your computer, whatever. It's the same as any of the other miners if you're familiar with any of those. The default password is 1 through 9. Click on lock and congratulations, you have entered your mining device. So we can see the average performance here is reported by the miner. Pretty good, pretty consistent. We can get a temperature readout, so it's at 78 Celsius. It's in a pretty hot environment right now, so this is a rough place to run. It reports simply one hash board in the device, and it's doing what it is supposed to be doing. When we look at the miner, we see I just have one mining pool punched in here. I just did the default, which auto-populated the Euro pool on F2 pool. You do whatever you want to do. I just wanted to get this up and running real quick. I would be better off to align this with a North American based mining pool stratum. But step one is to get online, start earning. Step two is refine it and things like that. This, of course, only has one mining algorithm. Pretty simple, pretty straightforward. If you do want to do Wi-Fi, you go to the system settings, and then from there you can select the network, put in your password, and you will have Wi-Fi capabilities. If you ever want to dive deeper into your Goldshell miner, you can type /debug after the pound sign up here. And this will give you access to the miner history, along with a lot of other information. One thing that I like to see is I can get a real-time fan readout, but even more so, we can get information on the chips, and we can look at their temperatures. We can look at the clocks. We can look at hardware errors. And this is all good information to diagnose a potential problem, figure out why it's working well, or not, and go from there. At this time, this device is doing fine, good enough, so I'll just be leaving this as is for now. So let's talk about the device. Let's basically say it's $2,200, and it makes $250 to $280 a month, right? So we're gonna need essentially a year to earn enough coin to pay this device off, and also account for, depending on your rate, the electricity bill. Stuff like this I think is really well suited to if you have excess solar electricity, right? Getting solar up to account for 600 watts a day is like, not very much, especially if you just happen to end up with an excess, things like that. That's a great way to kind of take the electric bill out of the equation. But the number one competitor for this, right? So this is a small little mini at-home ASIC miner, which is very cool. If you wanted a miner that gave you more bang for buck, right, you would be looking at full-size Kaspa ASIC miners. For example, there's the KS5M, which does 15 terahash a second at 11 grand. So that's obviously well under $1,000 per terahash, where you're paying a little bit more than $1,000 per terahash for the KA Box Pro. It's smaller, it has more versatility, but it's less bang for buck. It's a worse investment than the bigger one, but it's a lot easier to throw $2,000 at Kaspa mining than it is to take the plunge and throw $11,000 at it. So that's one thing to keep in mind. There's also the KS0 Ultra that's recently come out, and it's pretty expensive here on ASIC Marketplace. But if we go over to IceRiver, and they finally reactivated our coupon code because they're selling more miners or whatever. They take it in and out. They're annoying to deal with, to be honest. But the coupon code we have works again, so that's down in the video description below. You also can support the channel if you use our link at all these places, which I already talked about. But they sell the device for $350. Throw the power supply on there, $370. Once you get through shipping and stuff like that, it's $450 bucks. So let's just call it $400 for easier math. Speaking of 400 gigahash, right? If you have 400 gigahash times 4, it's 1,600 gigahash, which is 1.6 terahash a second, right? Because that's divided by 1,000 to go up in that category. Pretty easy math. So if you have 4 of these, you would have the same performance, the mining hash rate, as the KA Box Pro. Okay, let's say this also happens to cost me $400 times 4, which did the same math again. I know math is hard, that's why we do it twice. We would spend $1,600. Here's where it gets crazier. We would only be consuming, watch, we're gonna end up at a familiar number again. We would only be consuming 400 watts. So even if we paid $500 or even potentially $600 per KS0 Ultra to deploy it, it's a better bang for buck than the KA Box Pro. The KA Box Pro is too expensive. Goldshell consistently makes their miners too expensive. So while the KA Box Pro has been a good device, it's been performing well, why would you buy it over 4 KS0 Ultras? Sure, it's a little annoying to have 4 devices. Goldshell manufacturing quality, in my opinion, is better than IceRiver. True, but my only KS0 Pro, which is the predecessor to the Ultra version that has died, I overclocked. The ones that I didn't mess with are still running fine, and they run literally right next to each other. And even my original KS0 not Pro that has been overclocked has not died, as it sits right next to my KS0 Pro that was overclocked and did die. So take from that whatever you will. The point is, KA Box Pro is a good miner. It's a good thing. If you want simplicity, you want something familiar, you want something a little bit nicer, you want Wi-Fi capabilities, you just want one device, this is going to be the ticket. If you want that Kaspa mining exposure, very interesting. But when you break down the numbers, the KS0 Ultra, 4 of them, is a better buy. Granted, I haven't got one in yet to review. I can't verify if it actually does what it's supposed to do, but the 2 previous models did do what they were supposed to do. And these aren't far out. They're shipping basically over the next 1 to 3 weeks reportedly, and IceRiver overall has done a good job hitting their ship dates on their mini miners. So, I mean, really, as we look long term, we look at Kaspa, it's become more difficult than ever to mine Kaspa. But weirdly enough, we've had the biggest drop in Kaspa mining network hash rate in history today or yesterday. So that's odd. It makes me think that Bitmain has a massive KS5 batch, and they just pulled them out of the testing arena after severely profiting probably the last couple weeks in this region. And they're boxing them up and they're sending them off to their future homes. Kaspa has also stepped down in mining rewards, which they do systematically every single month today. If you don't know, Kaspa effectively halves annually and reduces their mining rewards issuance by like approximately 8% per month. So that will absolutely come into your mining return equation. For example, like when I broke this out over the next year, Kaspa has to consistently increase in price to make up for that lack of coin that I'll be mining over the next year. Furthermore, that would be assuming that the network hash rate doesn't increase, which historically obviously has been the exact opposite. It has become 291 times more difficult to mine the same amount of coin if the coin output stayed the same since April 2023. So really at this point, I think that you need to be a believer in this cryptocurrency to pursue it, unless you just want diversification with mining exposure or, you know, insert whatever other reason. So, hey, that's the information. That's what I've got. That's my synopsis here. I'm more interested in the bigger miners, if anything, just because they're a better bang for buck. But I love reviewing the little miners as well. And I know that those are more applicable, right? And when I talk to my friends, family, and of course, when I'm fortunate to talk to all of the coolest people in the world, which are obviously the VoskCoin subscribers, there's a lot more interest in the smaller miners due to just being easier and more versatile to deploy, along with obviously it's a lower budget to get engaged in that. So on that note, I'm going to close this video out with 10 seconds of Tails, who is of course our CBO, Chief Budget Officer here at the VoskCoin YouTube channel. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you enjoyed this content. Let me know what you liked about it, how I can improve it moving forward. We're putting out a ton of content right now, and I don't plan on slowing down, for better and worse. Yeah, better and worse.